Good morning. Welcome, Your Excellency, President of the Republic, as well as Chairperson of the Presidential Climate Commission, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, honorable ministers present here today, fellow commissioners, Executive Director and Secretariat members of the Presidential Climate Commission, colleagues joining us, including members of the public and the media. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today marks the substantive commencement of the second term of the Presidential Climate Commission. Although we meet virtually, this is an important moment. We gather to set the direction for the next 5 years under your leadership as Chairperson of the Presidential Climate Commission, as well as President of the Republic. Let me thank you for appointing this second assembly of commissioners, this time under the Climate Change Act, enacted and assented by you in 2024. I am personally grateful for the confidence you have shown me in appointing me as Deputy Chairperson. Today's special session has been convened to frame our 5-year program. Our work will be guided by the Climate Change Act, South Africa's national development priorities, and the realities of our economic and social context. We commit to act objectively, grounded in scientific and empirical evidence, and to work towards progressive consensus in advancing our just transition. We build on the foundations laid during the first term. Much institutional work has been done. The task now is to consolidate, sharpen our focus, and move further into implementation under your guidance and leadership. The context in which we operate has shifted, in some instances quite dramatically. Geopolitical fragmentation is intensifying, and multilateral cooperation is under strain. Economic pressures remain significant. At the same time, climate impacts are accelerating, affecting infrastructure, municipalities, livelihoods, and vulnerable communities across our country. Against that backdrop, our mandate remains clear: to advise and catalyze implementation of development pathways towards a just transition, one that is low carbon, climate resilient, inclusive, and economically competitive, with jobs at the heart of such a strategy. In preparation for this meeting, commissioners convened in January to align on our mandate, governance framework, and working methods. We also acknowledged the work of the first commission and the leadership of the previous deputy chairs during the commission's formative period. In our initial discussions, 3 themes emerged. First, balancing ambition with pragmatism. Our transition pathway must be credible and consistent with our international commitments, but also implementable within our economic, fiscal, energy, and industrial realities. Second, ensuring that restorative, procedural, and distributional justice remain central themes. Climate policy must explicitly account for workers, affected regions, municipalities, and vulnerable households. The just transition requires deliberate design and sustained social engagement. Third, strengthening our focus on adaptation and resilience. Recent extreme weather events have highlighted vulnerabilities in infrastructure and in our local and particularly marginalized communities and local economies. Mitigation remains essential, but adaptation must receive, in our view, equal strategic attention. Following your guidance today, Mr. President, we will refine these priorities and develop a focused 5-year program through our research, our working groups, and through our stakeholder consultations. We will remain principled, yet practical, evidence-based, socially attentive, and disciplined in producing clear, implementable recommendations aligned with our national development objectives. You have appointed a commission that reflects diverse expertise and perspectives and come from a range of sectors in our society. That diversity strengthens our capacity to produce robust, collective advice. With that, I will now invite commissioners to briefly introduce themselves, very briefly, one by one, after which I will invite you, Mr. President, to address this special session of the Presidential Climate Commission. I thank you. If I may start, my name is Deepak Patel. I've had a broad range of experiences, both public and private sector, and I am at your service, Mr. President.
Excellent.
Boitumelo?
The others seem to be shy.
Thank you very much, President, and thank you to yourself, Deputy Chair. Good morning to the commissioners on the call as well as the other colleagues. My name is Boitumelo Molete from the Congress of South African Trade Unions. I am a commissioner representing organized labor. Thank you very much, President.
Brandon.
Good morning, Mr. President, Deputy Chair, and colleagues present. Very honored to be here. I'm Brandon Abdenor from the Center for Environmental Rights. We're a public interest law organization representing at-risk and marginalized communities and individuals and pushing for strong climate action and a just transition. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine.
Catherine seems to be shy. She's not, she's muted. Catherine, please speak up.
Apologies, Mr. President. Catherine Constantinides, a very proud commissioner. I am a climate activist and environmental activist, have worked within this space since I was 15 years old. It is an absolute privilege to serve and to be able to do the groundwork I do in informal communities across our country. Thank you.
No, since you were 14 years old.
Very good. Cecil.
Good morning, good morning, Deputy Chairperson. Good morning, President Chairperson. Thank you so much for having me here as well. Inkosi Mahlangu II from Zunzapugucha in Mpumalanga, representing the royal sector and also representing the communities that we lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bayete.
Professor Edward.
Good morning. My apology, my camera could not work properly. My name is Edward Nesamvuni. I'm in the academic space. I've worked within the agricultural sector as my background in terms of qualification, and I continue to work in the environmental sector, dealing with climate change, water, and matters of rural development. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Errol.
Greetings. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you, Deputy Chair, fellow commissioners, and the Secretary. I'm Andile Mlambo from the Grassroots for Climate Action. We're serving on the civil society space and the Youth Caucus. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for always recognizing the role of civil society involvement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andile. We have an apology from Professor Imran Valodia, Mr. President. He's had to travel abroad on an assignment. Joanne.
Okay.
Thank you. Morning, Mr. President, ministers and colleagues. I'm Joanne Yawich. I am from the JET PMU and I am a returning commissioner. Very honored to be able to serve on this commission again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Councillor Pukunsi. You're muted, Councillor.
Yeah, councillors don't often want to be heard. They make too many speeches.
Councillor Pukunsi, we'll come back to you. Kungeka and Jobe.
Good morning, Deputy Chair. Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Kungeka Jobe. I work independently currently, but I've worked in private sector, public sector, and the civil society. And my domain expertise is in the area of sustainability, specifically biodiversity, climate, water, circular economy, and lately sustainable finance. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Dr. Gallant.
Good morning, Mr. President, ministers, and colleagues. My name is Dr. Muhammad Ridwan Khaland. I represent SEFSE, South African Faith Communities Environment Institute. My interests are climate change and sustainable development, as well as the keeping up of renewable energy. Also, I'm also interested in saving of water and the methods of saving water. And also, I am also concerned about our fishing resources and how we must sustain the fishing communities and the fish in the sea. And also, I'm concerned about deforestation, how we can keep our trees going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Dr. Moya.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chair. Good morning, Mr. President, the ministers, and the commissioners that are on the call. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for this opportunity. My name is Nasi Pimoya. I'm a councillor and an executive mayor in the city of Tshwane. It is quite an honor, Mr. President, to serve on this commission at the time where you have made it quite, elevated the role of cities in what we need to do to build our country. So if we are heeding your call, Mr. President, it's all hands on deck when it comes to the local government and the role we need to play. It's quite a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Ms. Ndiabani Magadagela.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chair. Good morning, Mr. President, ministers and colleagues. My name is Ndiambani Magadagela. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Electric, where we deploy electric vehicles into logistics fleet to reduce emissions and improve operational efficiencies. My experience is in development finance, transaction structuring, and mergers and acquisitions. And my particular interest is in financeable pathways to decarbonize that will protect our competitiveness and jobs. It's an incredible honor to serve. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Her Majesty Queen Neo Mopeli.
Thank you so much. Good morning to all the commissioners and Ntate Presidente. By way of introduction, my name is Queen Neo Mopeli. I'm the Queen Consort to His Majesty King Mremaholo, based in Qwaqwa, Free State. I'm an attorney by profession, the Deputy Chairperson of the South African Queen's Council, which is a COCTA-established council, serve on various boards and state-owned entities relevant to this, the South African Weather Services. My focus here, President, is to bring the views of the marginalized and vulnerable communities living under the traditional authority structures. We are to ensure that their voices, the challenges, and the local realities inform the work of the Presidential Commission, and we're committed to advancing for inclusive community-driven solutions, as well as strengthening resilience and sustainable livelihoods. I look forward to 5 years of meaningful and impactful work, service, as well as collaboration. And thank you to the commissioners and to Mr. President for Sabakasena. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ntombifuthi Nkomalo.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. President, fellow commissioners, and the ministers that are on the line. My name is Ntombifuthi Nkomalo. I'm a geologist by profession with working experience in the mining and energy sectors. That is where I've built my expertise in geosciences, mineral regulation of South Africa, power generation, sustainability, and mine closures. So I believe my contribution in the Commission is to decarbonize the South African economy. I can focus on developing strategies and initiatives that leverage the necessary critical minerals for the development of clean energy technologies, and also initiatives that diversify our local economies towards a just transition so that we can preserve livelihoods in the impacted communities. Thank you. I'm happy to serve, and it's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Pindile Masangane. You're muted, Pindile. We cannot hear you, Pindile. We'll come back to Dr. Masangane. Is Dr. Sarushan Pillay here? If he is, yes. Welcome.
Good morning, Deputy Chair, and good morning, Mr. President. I'm Dr. Sarushan Pillay. So I'm a chemical engineer by training with about 25 years of experience in the field of sustainability. I work at Sasol, and at Sasol, I head up our research and technology division, strategy, and all our new businesses. I'm really honored to be representing the voice of industry on this commission as we look at how we can transition while sustaining economic growth for our country.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shamila Subramani.
Good morning. Good morning to the President, Your Excellency, and to all the ministers present and colleagues. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to be serving on the Commission. I am Shamila Subramani, the CEO of the National Business Initiative South Africa. I'm completely aligned to the mission of the Commission in looking at low carbon development and competitiveness for our economy while securing our livelihoods. I'm very much looking forward to the implementation era of the Commission, my own background being strongly in corporate strategy and sustainability, but also closely aligned with the NBI's missions. And the President, you know, we also support the presidency on Operation Vulindlela. So very much looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shamila. Shamini Harrington.
Good morning, Deputy Chair, and good morning to the President. My name is Shamini Harrington. I am representing the business sector. My experience resides in environmental science, and I've got about 25 years experience in climate change management. I am also a returning commissioner, so really honored to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Thandile Zonke.
Good morning. Apologies, I'm having difficulty with my camera. My name is Thandile Zonke. I am a climate and energy campaigner, and I form part of civil society, where I'm also representing as a youth commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Tracy Lynn Field.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Mr. President. My name is Tracy Lynn Field. I'm a professor at Wits University and the director of the Mandela Institute. And like some other commissioners here, I have a quarter of a century's worth experience working in academia and with civil society organizations in environmental, energy, water, climate adaptation law, and climate loss and damage. I am thrilled to serve on this commission, and I intend to serve in the area of monitoring and evaluation.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Wahid Hussain. Not here, it seems. Ms. Zainab Sadan.
Good morning, Deputy Chairperson. Good morning, Mr. President, ministers, and colleagues. My name is Zainab Sadan. I represent civil society. I'm currently at WWF South Africa, and I wish to contribute looking at the climate and nature lens and how we can strengthen ecosystem-based adaptation. Looking forward to serving on the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Titus Mate.
Good morning, Deputy Chair. Good morning, Mr. President, Chair of PCC. My name is Titus Mate. I'm the CEO of Saned SANED is one of the entities under the Department of Electricity and Energy, and also be joining TIA, the Technology Innovation Agency, as their new CEO. Very honored and privileged to be part of this forum, Mr. President, and I look forward to my meaningful contribution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Titus. Those who did not get a chance, I'm going to allow a minute to see if you can put your cameras on unmute. Quickly introduce yourself before we hand over to the President for his address.
Good morning, Deputy Chair. My name is Councillor Kinalema Mpukunzi, representing South African Local Government Association. I am one of the returning commissioners. I am very pleased to be appointed to continue with the work that we've been doing in the last session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pukunzi.
Your Excellency, the President and Chairman of the Commission, I hope I've got my technology right this time around. I am Phindile Masangane. I'm the Group Executive for Programs, Infrastructure Programs at the Development Bank of Southern Africa, DBSA. I've recently joined the DBSA with extensive experience from the energy sector. I've served for some time at the SAF Group of companies, and that allowed me, Mr. President, to work both in the oil and gas industry as well as the renewable energy industry. So my interest and my honor in being appointed to the Commission is to ensure that as a country, we have energy security at the center of our decarbonization. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I think that has concluded the introductions, Mr. President. A special welcome to Minister Okamp. Mr. President, the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. After your address, I think we will be completely open to Minister Okamp also making some remarks. But without any further ado, Your Excellency, President Ramaphosa, also Chairperson of the Presidential Climate Commission, we are all ears. And as you've seen, we've committed to serving you well in this Presidential Climate Commission. President, thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you so much indeed. Deputy Chairperson of the Commission, ministers, members of the Presidential Climate Commission, Executive Director Dora Modise, and ladies and gentlemen. I am always attacked and pillaged and called all sorts of names for setting up commissions and task teams and committees. I must tell you that this is one commission that I am willing to be attacked for and called all sorts of names, because having a climate commission like all of you are is one of the greatest benefits that our country could ever have. I am not a geologist. I am not a corporate activist. I'm not a social activist like many of you are. And South Africa needs you. South Africa requires your skills, your knowledge, and your capabilities to address this challenge that we collectively face of climate change. So if you ever hear me being attacked for having set you up, just cheer and say, well done, President, because you are doing a just cause. You are involved in a just cause for our nation. I couldn't be more pleased by having all of you, and thank you so much to all of you for agreeing to serve the nation as we have to address this existential challenge that our country faces. Climate change is an existential threat to the future of humanity and to our planet. We are all required to act with others across the globe to ensure that we do not breach the 1.5-degree warming above pre-industrial levels. We must reduce carbon emissions at a pace and, in our case, at a scale that is appropriate to our national circumstances. We must also simultaneously climate-proof our development and our infrastructure while strengthening resilience and disaster management capabilities. Climate action and development must be aligned, and it must also support our growth and prosperity. I spoke at length during the State of the Nation address and my reply yesterday about the growth that all of us as South Africans aspire to. But that growth must be underpinned by what we do with regard to climate change. South Africa is already experiencing the effects of climate change without any doubt. If anybody ever doubted that there is climate change, one needs to travel to the Eastern Cape, KZN, now of late Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northwest, and indeed the Western Cape. And the Free State, all our provinces are now affected by climate change. And these are predicted to increase rapidly as we approach the end of this decade and beyond. This could significantly impede our growth and our collective prosperity. It is likely to undermine our efforts to address inequality, poverty, as well as unemployment, the triple challenge that our country continues to face. Addressing climate change must therefore go hand in hand with improving living conditions for all our people. Those most vulnerable to climate change, including women, children, people with disabilities, the poor and the unemployed, need to be protected. And people living in rural areas where they do not have easy access to the best services and resources. We also need to protect workers' jobs as well as livelihoods. And I'm glad that we've got people from the trade union movement on this commission. South Africa has set ambitious goals for climate action, aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the impacts of climate change. As the Commission, our work is to ensure a just transition to a low-carbon economy while helping South Africa to become more resilient, strengthening our global competitiveness, and reducing poverty, inequality, and unemployment at the same time. To do this, we need to build consensus through social dialogue. The birth of the Presidential Climate Commission in December 2020 really marked a turning point in South Africa's climate agenda. For the first time, our country created a permanent, independent, and I underline independent, multi-stakeholder body to advise on its response to climate change. South Africa needed an independent, credible body that could convene diverse voices, provide sound evidence, and help the country navigate one of the most complex policy challenges in its democratic history. And this is who you are. You are independent, you are diverse, and you are here to serve the people of South Africa. The Presidential Climate Commission was established to ensure that South Africa's climate transition is just, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of vulnerable communities, and that it is based on the best available scientific evidence. And that is why I'm so pleased and proud to have scientists also on this commission. At the last session of the commission's first term in December last year, I received a report outlining what the commission had done in its first 5 years. I'm glad that there are returning commissioners who will carry on the knowledge and the experience of the last commission. And I'm glad that those past commissioners who are continuing have agreed to serve again. That report lays a basis for a broad scope of what our priorities should be for the next 5 years until 2030. Now, since its inception, the PCC, as we call it, has played a central role in South Africa's climate policy landscape. Most importantly, the PCC has really emerged as an important platform for consensus building in our country's just transition journey. It is regarded as a credible body that comes up with credible decisions on policy matters. By bringing together government, business, labor, civil society, youth, and academia, the PCC has fostered inclusive dialogue and solutions to some of the country's most complex and contested climate and developmental challenges. It has helped to align diverse interests we have in our country. It has helped to align all those interests around common goals, such as the phase down of fossil fuels energy sources. It has also addressed the issue of investment in renewables and the protection of livelihoods. It has sought to ensure that policy decisions are both evidence-based and also socially legitimate and widely supported, and that they are backed by science, not suppositions, not even witchcraft. The just transition is an opportunity to rebuild trust with communities and to deal with practical issues relating to jobs, local economies, skills, social support, and governance, amongst others. Now, as we gather here, we are gathering at a pivotal moment in South Africa's energy transition. Energy security and climate action must be mutually reinforcing. A stable, diversified electricity system is the foundation of growth, investment, and job creation, especially as we propel our country towards green industrialization. The Just Energy Transition Partnership that we crafted with a number of international players, which, by the way, was the first in the world, unprecedented, must now move from commitment to delivery. We must also translate the pledges that have been made into visible progress on the ground. Among other things, we need to speed up and accelerate renewable energy deployment. We must also strengthen and expand transmission infrastructure and enable storage solutions and create space for greater private sector participation, which should happen through innovative financing solutions. We look to this commission for guidance on how to ensure that our energy transition advances energy security for our country, while at the same time reducing emissions and maximizing the opportunities for our economy from a low-carbon transition. At the same time, commissioners, we look to the Commission for guidance on how our communities can adapt and be more resilient to the ever-changing and increasing effects of climate change. Our pathway to the targets set out in our nationally determined contribution, which we have submitted to the international community and to the UN, must reinforce growth. They must also address the issue of inclusion, as well as addressing our most important challenge, which is job creation. Now, as we continue to seek sufficient financial investment to reduce our carbon emissions, we must also increase the share of funding for adaptation. This is essential to secure the development gains the country has achieved. Now, as the country works to reduce its carbon footprint, we must ensure that this shift does not disproportionately affect the most vulnerable, such as those who depend on industries like coal mining for their livelihoods. This will, in the end, require inclusive social dialogue and unprecedented levels of cooperation between government, business, labor, and our communities. By bringing together voices from all sectors of society that you all represent. And we've been very careful to scour across the country to find you who represent our various constituencies and sectors. This PCC will promote consensus on the implementation of economic, social, and also environmental policies that we need to achieve our decarbonization targets. As this new commission begins its work, we should not leave important tasks unfinished. For example, we need to attend to the redevelopment of the community of Komati in Mpumalanga, who, in the aftermath of the decommissioning of the power station, were left with no economic recovery plan. We expect all government departments at all levels to continue to be cooperative, supportive, and receptive to the views of this commission. We expect all parts of government to take the PCC's recommendations forward and work collaboratively on awareness and social dialogue, ensuring that we enable local action and adjust policy measures where necessary. We should not be afraid as we confront challenges at the local level to change course with a view of addressing the local challenges that our people are facing. For the transition to be just and credible, it must be redistributive, it must also be restorative and procedurally just. All citizens should, in the end, be empowered to participate in the transition. And they must participate not as passive beneficiaries of government services and corporate social responsibility grants, but as economic actors themselves. This must be a transition to a transformed, inclusive, and more equal economy that will benefit our people as a whole. I call on you as commissioners to work in close partnership with our key ministers and departments to ensure that climate action is fully integrated into our national priorities, from energy and finance to trade, labor, and cooperative governance. Through coordinated leadership and shared accountability and responsibilities, we can undertake climate action in a manner that advances development, protects livelihoods, and also unblocks new opportunities for our people. So, as for me, who is always accused of setting up task teams and commissions, I am the happiest person in our country today for having set this commission up. I am really thankful to all of you for taking on this responsibility and for your commitment to this work. You are a diverse group of well-experienced people who will be able to do much more than what I could do, who will also be able to do much more than Minister Ocamp can do alone. And as I said yesterday, we must be a nation of builders, working as beavers, because beavers are builders who each know their role. Your role is to address climate change. My role is to provide the leadership. Minister Ocamp's role is to ensure that there is policy alignment. And Minister Godongwana is not here because he's working on his budget speech. He plays a different role. And many others, the Deputy President and many other ministers, they play their role. And all of us must therefore play our roles to build this country and take our country forward. So I look forward to our continued efforts to contribute in the most meaningful way to global climate action and to build a sustainable and prosperous future for all South Africans. So that even as we stand on the world stage, and I often go to these climate change summits, as we stand on that, we must know that we stand there properly and fully armed by policy positions that have been properly crafted, backed by science, backed by the experience of our people and also policies that take our country forward. So I want to thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and I want to thank you more especially because you will do the heavy lifting as the Deputy Chair, and I'll take the glory. And so thank you for taking on this task. And I must tell you all as commissioners, this is indeed a noble task to address the challenges of our nation and take our country forward. So thank you for all of you for having agreed to serve on this commission. Thank you very much, and over to you, Deepak Patel.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. President. I think I speak on behalf of all the commissioners when I say that you have given us not only the courage, but also the commitment that we play as the PCC, our rightful role in the mix of decision-making and providing the catalyst effect for a just transition. I did want to ask some of the commissioners to also spend a minute or two giving their perspectives, especially from the expertise area or constituency they come from. And therefore, commissioners, those of you who have been preordained to speak, if I can ask you please to keep it brief. We do understand, Mr. President, that you have time constraints and a hard stop. You are excused in advance to depart as your diary requires you to do. First up is Dr. Titus Mate. If you can, in a few minutes, provide us with some of your reflections on the priority issues. Titus.
Thank you very much, Chair and Deputy Chair. I hope I'm audible. I've prepared.
Well, you are not only audible, you are in the most desired place with the sea and the beach in the background. Wow, all of us would like to be where you are.
It is technology, Mr. President. Yeah, I'll try and be brief, Deputy Chair. Maybe let me just quickly reflect before I go through my notes what the President has just said. The climate change impact is already being felt. So the debate whether climate change is here or not, I think we must move past that. Transition must be just and inclusive. I think that's well received from you, Mr. President. Our decisions must be scientific and evidence-based. I think that's also a well-received message. And collaboration and consensus is key. You mentioned that government, business, communities, and academics must work together. I couldn't agree more than what you've just said there, Mr. President. But by the same token, President, let me just give credit to PCC. I'm a new member here, but PCC and yourself, your leadership and the minister's leadership in getting the climate change legislation in place. I think this has helped to shift from policy ambition to binding execution. And this is good progress. And we're beginning to see positive results. For instance, on the energy space, the energy policy coherence and integration, they recently gazetted the IRP 2025, which is well aligned with the NDC targets. And I was personally involved in that exercise. I remember the discussions that took place to align the IRP 2025 with the NDC target. This is positive development. This has led, of course, to the target of more than 40% of national energy supply from renewable energy sources by 2030. And again, this is very positive, but we must focus now on execution. It's well and good to have the plan and the target, but we need to focus on the execution. As you correctly pointed out, Mr. President, as we introduce these large volumes of renewable energy, we need to look at the transmission infrastructure as well as the storage to cater for the issues that are related to renewable energy. We've also seen very positive developments in terms of projects and initiatives to deal with the hard to abate sectors, the heavy duty transport, the iron and steel, the cement manufacturing, as well as petrochemicals and others. And hence we are seeing a lot of work being done around green hydrogen, green ammonia, green fertilizers, carbon capture, utilization, and storage. So as much as we've made progress, there are challenges, Mr. President and colleagues. The public and government, they are sometimes not informed based on scientific and credible data, and this needs to be addressed going forward. The net zero, the NDC target, and the CBAM, these are foreign concepts to the general public, and maybe to some extent some policymakers. So we need to make an effort to do the awareness, do the training, so that everyone is on the same page. It's not just us who are intellectuals who are talking about these concepts. And then, of course, Mr. President, the reality is that the public sector is seized with priorities, day-to-day priorities of just, keeping the country going. We've dealt now with load shedding. ESCOM has done a great job on that. But of course, they need to now focus on load reduction. There's now water shortages. There's also electricity cost issues. All of these things, they tend to take away the focus from climate change initiatives, and there needs to be a balance. There's issues of capacity and the skills that are required to drive climate change initiatives. We need to address that. There's also issues of socio-economic impact. I think you spoke about it. I do not think at this point in time we've got a clear and visible economic regeneration of communities that are affected, the coal-dependent communities that are affected by some of the initiatives. I think we need to pay a lot more attention on that going forward. So in closing, Deputy Chair and Mr. President, I think we are making the right moves. We are moving in the right direction. We must, however, as you correctly pointed out, Mr. President, recognize that we're still a developmental state. We've got issues of low economic growth, issues of jobs, issues of unemployment and inequality, and we need to address such issues going forward. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Titus. I'm going to appeal to the other commissioners to be extremely brief. We don't want to have to release the President midway in this presentation. And I also want to give a minute or two to Minister Okamp. Ms. Tandile Zonke, 2 minutes, please.
Good day, Mr. President, and thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning. Across the country, both urban and rural municipalities are grappling with climate and energy issues. If the just transition is to truly succeed, it must be grounded in the lived realities of not only urban communities, but also rural communities. Raymond Mhlaba municipality is one of many municipalities facing a deepening infrastructure crisis. Their roads, stormwater systems, bridges, and public facilities were not designed for climate volatility. Recently, even moderate rainfall brought the town of Edigeni to a standstill. This is not an extreme climate event, but rather a warning to all of us. If the just transition is to succeed, it must be spatially inclusive, grounded in these lived realities. Rural municipalities cannot be peripheral to national planning. They are implementation sites for resilience, economic diversification, and social stability. Climate change is no longer a future risk. It is currently a governance and service delivery crisis unfolding now in both urban and rural South Africa. The Presidential Climate Change Commission must therefore prioritize 3 things: climate resilience, local infrastructure in both urban and also rural municipalities. Adaptation funding must reach municipalities directly, together with technical support to redesign infrastructure for a changing climate. Without this, the just transition will remain abstract to communities who are experiencing climate impacts as collapsed roads, disrupted schooling, water insecurity, and lost jobs and livelihoods. Consultation and a bottom-up approach continues to be important for the just transition. Rural communities cannot be passive recipients of policy. They must be co-architects of the transition. More engagements are necessary. Structured ongoing consultation mechanisms, including embedding at municipal and district levels, are essential to building legitimacy and accountability. Thirdly, we must recognize that rural communities hold deep reservoirs of indigenous knowledge and intergenerational knowledge. Farmers, gogos, traditional leaders, and local cooperatives understand land stewardship, water systems, and adaptive practices developed over many years. This knowledge must inform the national transition planning, not sit at the margins of it. A just transition is not only about decarbonization, it is about resilience, dignity, and participation. If we center rural voices together with urban spaces, strengthen municipal capacity, and institutionalize a bottom-up approach to governance,
we can build a transition that is not only low carbon, but also spatially anchored and enduring for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Ms. Boitumelo Molete.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair and President. As a returning commissioner, it is an honor to be able to continue the work of the Commission. This new term of the Commission finds its foundation from a very successful and principled term where the PCC framework, Komati assessment, and several other policy briefs were developed to guide us. The core task before us as this cohort is to allow our work to find its expression in the focus areas that we will be focusing on. South Africa's transition must be firmly anchored on economic restructuring and sustainable development. Climate action cannot be pursued in isolation from industrial policy, localization, and the creation of decent work. Our first strategic priority should therefore be to ensure that low carbon initiatives and investments are deliberately linked to domestic value chains and sectors, industrial development, as well as measures to ensure that we are achieving decent work outcomes. Central to this is a coordinated national skills strategy and one that is prioritizing large-scale skilling and upskilling of workers, anticipates future labor market needs, as well as equips young people and women to be meaningfully involved in the low carbon and climate resilient economy. Second, the pace and the scale of the transition must be responsibly aligned with credible labor market adjustment measures, ensuring that workers and communities are not left vulnerable or pushed into destitute. Skills development must be accompanied by social protection measures and strengthened social dialogue so that workers are not passive recipients of change, but active participants in shaping it. A transition that is negotiated ensures that we are able to drive skills development, employment-intensive measures, as well as build stability and public trust. If we align climate ambition with skills development, social protection, and coordinated industrial strategies, the transition can become a catalyst for rebuilding productive capacity and reducing inequality. The signal for this term, therefore, should be clear. Climate policy must be translated into measurable, inclusive economic measures, as well as strengthened voice of workers, women, and youth to ensure that we achieve a just, inclusive, and equitable transition. Thank you very much, President.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Boitumelo. Last but not least, and please keep it brief, Dr. Pillay.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Chair. I'll be brief. The first cohort of the PCC commissioners laid a very strong foundation through the Just Transition Framework, anchoring our work in science, evidence, and the best information available at the time. As we look ahead, these principles remain essential through the insights given, through the substantial data that they've gathered, and by all the PCC social partners and the commissioners. When we look around, we see that global fragmentation and policy uncertainty have intensified, adding new layers of complexity to our transition pathway. But at the same time, climate change has become even more visible. Severe climate-induced disasters, here in South Africa and globally, have profound social and economic impacts. Now, as business, we stand at the nexus of implementing practical, value-accretive climate solutions while urgently addressing the real harm of emissions on our people and communities. So as we begin this new phase of the PCC, 3 questions must guide our work. Firstly, how do we drive the transition in a value-accretive manner, integrating all key imperatives necessary to achieve rapid and inclusive economic growth in the region of 2 to 3%? Secondly, how do we drive a just and inclusive transition that yields tangible benefits for all South Africans? And thirdly, how can we ensure that the necessary policies and regulations are in place to enable South Africa to access markets that will offtake our sustainable products at economically viable prices? The President said it, we must do this all at the pace and scale appropriate to our national circumstances, and this must support inclusive economic growth and prosperity for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pillay. Mr. President, I understand your diary is extremely busy. Would you like a few words before we allow you to depart, but also after you call on Minister Okam to say a few words?
Well, thank you very much. I really would like to thank all of you, and especially also those who have spoken. I am truly, truly, deeply grateful that all of you have agreed to serve on this commission, and already I can see the level of commitment is quite high and deep, and it is based on not only your experience, but expansive knowledge of what we need to do. And based on what the first commission did, you have a strong foundation, and you will, I am absolutely certain, be able to execute the responsibility that the nation has given you, and to lead us as we address issues of climate change. I want you to pay special attention to the Komati issue. We set that up as a model, and we need to perfect that model, because we've got a number of fossil fuel power stations that have reached the end of their life, that will need to be shut down in time to come. And we cannot do that without focusing on what we have determined to do, which is a just transition. So the just transition that we have committed ourselves to must be seen in effect at the Komati community area. They must have a sense, and indeed all South Africans must have a sense that indeed transitioning from fossil fuel energy generation to a future which is based on justice, inclusion, and proper renewable energy landscape must happen there. So therefore, I would like to engage you all in ensuring that we build a model that will be seen globally also in how we transition. We were, as I said earlier, the very first from the starting blocks when it comes to a just energy transition investment process. Let us therefore be the very first, or among the first, because others have done it, by the way. And Deputy Chair, you may want to take time with some of the commissioners or all, depending on our budgetary capability, to go and look at what others have done around the world. I have not yet had the opportunity to go to other areas. I've often spoken to other heads of states who tell me that they have executed just energy transition, and we need to go and study and see exactly what they have done in terms of transitioning justly for the workers, for the communities, and for the local economies, and in the end, for energy security. So let's do that. So I'm really, truly grateful. I am sorry that I have to depart, but I leave you in the best of hands. You as Deputy Chair, and also Minister Ocamp, who is on his first tour of duty as a minister, capable, willing, and energetic to tackle the issues that we as a nation are having to deal with. So please allow me to call on Minister Ocamp to put his views across as I depart. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, and our esteemed chairperson of the Presidential Climate Commission. We really value your insights, your commitment, your support, and your time. Thank you very, very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Minister Okamp, we congratulate you on your recently acquired portfolio. Clearly, you are heading a portfolio in government that is absolutely critical to not only support us, but also to give us the strength to pursue a climate agenda under very complex and sometimes difficult circumstances. We welcome you both to your portfolio and want to give you honorary status as a key part of our commission. The floor is yours, Minister.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. President, Deputy Chairperson, Ministers here and Commissioner. Mr. President, I just firstly want to say to you that with this commission, you're not standing alone. I will also defend you on this. It will be an honor for me. Mr. President, Mr. Deputy Chairperson, it really is an honor for me to address this inaugural meeting of the second Presidential Climate Commission. We are gathered here today not only to continue the work that was begun by the first commission, but also to renew our collective resolve to confront climate change, which is one of the greatest challenges of our generation. Mr. Chairperson, the science is clear. Our country is warming at a high rate. Communities across South Africa are already feeling the strain, from protracted droughts in the area in the north of the country and shifting rainfall patterns to devastating floods as well as coastal erosion. These are not distant threats, Mr. Deputy Chairperson. They are realities demanding urgent, sustained action. Climate change is not a hoax. It is real. Anybody that says that climate change is a hoax must just go and have a look at Mpumalanga, Limpopo, the KwaZulu-Natal, where we had devastating floods that took place in the recent years. And what is worrying is that it is occurring more frequently every single time. We can just go and have a look at the veld fires. Climate change is not a hoax, and we must work together. Our response must be rooted in the two complementary imperatives of firstly mitigation and secondly adaptation. And these two are definitely complementary, as you also said earlier today, Mr. Deputy Chairperson. We must accelerate our transition to a low carbon, climate resilient economy that secures energy for all, whilst also reducing carbon and climate resilient economies, that also reducing and unlocking green jobs. At the same time, we must strengthen our adaptation and resilience, particularly in vulnerable communities. We saw that again with these floods. It is the vulnerable communities that are the largest and biggest affected by that. Though their livelihoods depends on our forests, on our oceans, and on our natural ecosystems, but they are the largely affected by these climate change. When these floods come, when these veld fires come, they are unprotected, and we've got to have their interest at heart. This second commission carries a crucial mandate to deepen collaboration across government, across business, labor, and civil society to ensure that our just transition is both equitable and inclusive, and to translate policy into measurable impact on the ground. Mr. President, Mr. Deputy Chair, I can give you the undertaking that the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment stands ready to work hand in hand with this commission. We are committed to open collaboration, knowledge sharing, and joint implementation of climate responsive policies and projects. From the nationally determined contribution to the Just Energy Transition Investment Plan, we can align our national frameworks with tangible outcomes that build resilience and can restore ecosystems and unlock sustainable opportunities. I want to close off by then saying that this second commission must be a platform of partnership, a space where government, labor, business, and civil society can unite in one purpose, guided by science and anchored in justice and driven by collaboration, we can secure a climate resilient and inclusive future for all South Africans. Let this commission serve as a bridge then between the vision and the implementation. Talk is cheap, money buys the whiskey. It must be guided by evidence, and it must be grounded in justice and driven by a shared belief that sustainable, prosperous, and climate resilient South Africa is within our reach. Together, we can turn this moment of crisis into a moment of opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Minister Okamp. I also want to use this opportunity to recognize two other ministers. Thank you so very much for joining us in this inaugural special meeting of the PCC under the guidance of the President, Minister Manamela of Higher Education and Training, as well as Minister Nchaveni from the Minister in the Presidency. Welcome. We are very privileged and honored to have you present. I am also mindful of time, and so ministers, you are more than welcome to remain for the rest of the agenda. But what we do want to do is go into some reflections based on the inputs we've received from the President, as well as from you, Minister Okamp, and begin the task of setting our priorities for the coming period. Thank you very, very much. I think following on the President's remarks, supported by Minister Okamp's remarks, it becomes quite clear that the Presidential Climate Commission in the second term will have the task of not only continuing the good work that was done during the first term of commissioners, but also begin the process of substantial implementation and catalyzing effective policy articulation as well as alignment as we give impetus to the just transition. I would like now for commissioners to reflect on and contribute from their point of view what they consider to be the substantive and focal points for the Commission's term starting now. I invite commissioners to make their contributions now by raising your hands, and I will call on you to speak. Thank you. Commissioner Yawich, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I think that we have had an incredibly inspiring input from the President that I really did think covered the full gamut of the issues related to climate change. I think that for me, just the one reflection that I do think that we are going to need to address as a commission is to be able to get the right balance in our work between this, I suppose, connection between the extent and the pace and the scale of decarbonization, the way we deal with the impacts of climate change, and the fact that those two things are intimately connected, and that what we do in the one affects the other, and then the issues around justice and the just transition. And I am very pleased that the President also raised the issue of Komati, because I think that the previous commission did an enormous amount of work, including stepping in, I think, to be able to run a process that really began to rebuild trust at a point when things looked very dark in that area. But I do think there is still a long way to go and many challenges. And so I think that it was an incredibly important steer for us. And I'm hoping, you know, one doesn't want to say, well, you know, let's just blindly take forward what was done in the previous commission. But I do think that some of that work about what the just transition means in practice and how one looks at local development and climate justice are going to be critical issues for us to address as a commission. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Yawich. Could I have Commissioner Molete now?
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I absolutely concur with what Commissioner Joanne has indicated. But I think what's different from the previous commission and President highlights is the importance of knowledge sharing and information exchange. We have been able to participate in UNFCCC processes, and I think President is now mandating us to go find more evidence of what other countries have done so that we can enhance our own domestic experience. While the just transition in South Africa will not look like other countries, I think President really emphasizes the importance of us going into the international arena and making sure that we are giving very evidence-based approaches to the work that we do. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. If I may indicate that we are still broadcasting, I'm not sure if in putting on our videos that will air, we are still in open broadcast session. So I am very happy that commissioners from their perspective are giving an indication to a broader audience as well, and therefore committing to the kind of work plan as well as focus areas we will endeavor to make as part of our strategy for the next term. Commissioner Brandon Abdino.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. I think a number of speakers alluded to the fact that things are moving fast, and indeed they are, and also the importance of the Commission as a space to have difficult conversations, among others, in pursuit of building consensus. Certain references to the NDC, and I think it's important to bear in mind that the Commission was very split around the NDC recommendation in the last term. And just acknowledging that there's not consensus around that. For example, we are seeing moves to pause perhaps the carbon tax, which I think we need to unpack, but it looks like it could potentially be highly regressive. So we hope that these sorts of conversations will be on the agenda, for the Commission to debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Abdino. Commissioner Shamila Subramani.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, supportive of for what's already been spoken about. I think from a business perspective, the key reflections for me is going to be around looking at the clarity that's needed on the policy landscape, but also on more coherent industrial planning that will allow us to get confidence in where the jobs are going to come from, how that is going to be implemented, and the sort of incentive policy structures that are going to support that. There's a strong call for the evidence basis, and I think that will be supported when communities and the different partners are able to see exactly what that planning looks like, and that is supported directly. Underpinning that cannot overemphasize the needs for the skills planning, which I think has been brought up already, to be able to give the confidence in investment as well, that there's a clear strategy, there's buy-in within the country, and that we've got a few demonstration projects that will give that very needed confidence that this can happen and that this is within our interest and can actually lead to competitiveness in the long term.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Njobe.
Thank you very much, Chair. I also want to echo what my fellow colleagues have said, but also just reflecting on the President and fellow commissioners' input. I really appreciated the strong validation from the President of the work of the Commission. It really puts us in a very strong position to be bold in terms of what we put forward on what needs to be done. It's very clear that the foundations have been set. It's implementation time, but I also like the fact that we're all in the innovation space in some instances, and that the learning from others, but also crafting models that could be implementable. And the case of Komati is really put squarely on our agenda. I think, Chair, one of the key points, just pulling from the thread of the President's talk at commissioners as well as Mr. Okamp, is that we need to reinforce and not lose a focus on reinforcing the consensus that has been achieved in terms of what needs to be done, not just by the Commission, but in terms of the entire climate agenda. Chair, I think we've got very good food for thought and execution for the purposes of our strategy session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dr. Mohammed Galant. You need to unmute, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. I very much appreciate the President's commitment of transforming from carbon energy to renewable energy. And I think I once just mentioned that this means that there will be job creation for many South Africans. And I think what is important, what I'm thinking is that we must now start to train personnel who can uphold the renewable energy sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Harrington.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I think just in terms of reflecting on what the President has said, I think we have an important task this year, or the next 5 years, I should say, to help South Africa navigate a path where economic resilience and climate ambition reinforce each other. I think that was an ask from the President, something we've got to look at and see how we look at those development paths in a way that delivers both, because they shouldn't be at odds. One of the other things I think that we didn't do enough of in the previous term is to look at different opportunities around incentives, mechanisms that encourage business to decarbonize, because it enhances competitiveness. I mean, the offset discussion comes and goes. I do think we need to think more broadly about the opportunities that exist to get more in the space. We've done a lot on the finance side, and I think we need to do more. I'm not at all saying we shouldn't, but I think linked to that, we need to do the incentive side. And then lastly, just also reflecting on global green value chains. I mean, we see a huge opportunity at the moment. A lot of countries are now scrambling for critical minerals. We have huge reserves. I think the PCC needs to lean into this. I think it's a huge opportunity for job creation and opportunities for economic resilience. I think we need to think about the different programs and how they can help us to get sustainability within the sectors we have, but also get them to transition into the future for a low carbon value chain development in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Field.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. For my part, benefit of coming last is that much has already been said, but I'd like to underscore my appreciation for the President's emphasis on the science, that we are anchored in science. And I think the Minister of Environment really captured that, anchored in science, guided by science, anchored in justice, and driven by collaboration. Those are important watchwords. Very appreciative that the Minister of Education and the Minister in the Presidency were here, because skills and education, but then also indicators that can be captured in the government performance contracting system are really important and will drive movements in implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mlambo.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. I think my reflection will be more on the work that was done by the previous commission, especially the stellar work done on the Climate Change Act. I think with the second term, there should be more work on adaptation, and we should try to push on the Climate Change Response Fund, so that we can respond to what's been happening on the grounds regarding the floods, the droughts, and all the related climate change impacts that have been happening. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Last but not least, Commissioner Sadan.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I'd like to echo some of the reflections from other commissioners, but also just to mention something that stood out for me, or three things that stood out for me from the President's reflections, was the need for interdepartmental cooperation and alignment across all levels of government. I think this is something to emphasize because, of course, climate change cuts across many different government mandates, and it cuts across and affects all levels of government. The second point again on this cross-cutting impact of climate change on water security, food security, and biodiversity protection. Is both kind of a challenge, but it also presents opportunities for job creation and livelihoods in the biodiversity economy, in the restoration economy. This is something that we should definitely unpack. And then finally, I think what was really helpful that the president mentioned was that while we need to be anchored in science, we also need to be anchored in on the ground lived realities to showcase a working model for what the just and planned transition could look like that can then feed into and inform policy direction. And we shouldn't be scared for the need to change direction based on some of that feedback. So I think this is something for us to take forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, commissioners. This is, in fact, the first session in which we are beginning to forge together as a team, seeking to find a commonality not only of purpose, but also of perspective. As we commence the work with, for want of a better word, passion and dedication, let us also remember that a lot of work has been done prior to us coming on board, and therefore we need to take that forward as well. I think the president made clear that while we will continue to focus on mitigation as a means to looking at how within the economic and social boundaries that present themselves to us, we can begin a journey to, at the very least, meet the commitments that we have made to the international communities through the nationally determined contribution. But our journey will never be complete unless we pay similar, if not more attention to adaptation and resilience. I think as we start the work of the Commission going forward, we need to bear in mind the President's call to ensure that we not only keep communities by our side and make them part of this journey. We do not want them as passive partners. We want them as active participants in this journey that we are undertaking. I think the president also made it quite clear that we need to learn lessons from the kind of failures we might have had as a country in dealing with the transition in local areas. And we need to strengthen not only those local areas that have already been negatively impacted, but ensure that as we move forward in our decarbonization journey, we become much more proactive. And we look forward to finding through the PCC, both through recommendations as well as community and stakeholder engagements, the kind of answers that are absolutely critical to our promise that we will leave no one behind as we undertake this transition. With that, I think I want to bring this first special session of the Commission to a close. To the commissioners and to the Executive Director and your Secretariat, we really look forward to putting our shoulders to the wheel, putting some renewable energy fuel into our muscles and forging ahead. To all those partners, as well as members of the public who have watched this live stream, we will continue as a commission to live up to a tradition that we have established in the course of the first term of the commission, and that is to be transparent in the way in which we deliberate, even where there might be difficult issues that need to be talked about, and consensus and commonality needs to be found as we forge ahead. And so I think I speak on behalf of this entire assembly of new commissioners when I say that we will remain absolutely transparent. We will be open to participation from all members of society, all sectors, and we pledge to work relentlessly as we try to reconcile and find a unified solution to our climate agenda while we do that in a way that builds and grows our economic competitiveness, creates jobs, and improves the lives of our people. With that, I want to bring this first special sitting of the Commission to a close, and I thank you all for the contributions that you have made. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.